Okay.
Wow.
Hello, everyone. Hey, hello, everyone. Welcome to Academy of Astrology. And I'm your host, Rocha. And today with me is Christeen Skinner. Hi, Christine.
Hi, Rod.
Oh, this is a very, very exciting moment. This is our very first episode of a Lunar Rhythm podcast. To be honest with you, English is not my first language. So for even for the lunar reason, I have to double check the pronunciation. Honest with you, I check 3 times. Am I going to say it right? I know it's the reason, but I just like when every time you see that RH and the Y, you just like, how should I go?
It's a really complicated word, and even learning to spell it is complicated. But
It is
it's such
true.
an interesting word because
Mm.
most people talk about lunar phases. And I
Yes.
wanted to talk about lunar rhythms because
Ah.
there's so much more to the lunar than just the lunar phases. You have the
Mm-hmm.
declination cycle, you have the latitude cycle, you have, you have
Yeah.
you can't compare one full moon with another one because they're in different signs, and the moon might have a different declination at that time. There're just so many different the complexities. It's so much more than just lunar phases.
Yes, and we know the moon is so important to us. It's satellite of our Earth, and it has a strong impact. It really is until I study financial astrology, and I noticed that oh my God, there is so many to understand, include you say the declination.
Yeah, yeah. Um, there was a big study done by the Royal Bank of Scotland, which
Mm-hmm,
anybody can find on the internet,
mm-hmm,
and they were showing they were trading both the FTSE and I think the S&P index, and
mm-hmm,
it's a very, very good study. But unfortunately, it, it's clearly not been done by an
mm-hmm,
astrologer, because they
mm-hmm,
were comparing what happens if you buy at the new and sell at the full, right?
mm-hmm,
Without taking into consideration they're in different signs,
mm-hmm.
so you
Yeah.
can't do it that way.
Mm,
And the outcome is very different. If the day of a full moon happens to coincide with an ingress, a key ingress, or maybe
mm,
an outer planet stationing, that will give a completely different outcome to it if
mm.
everything was running as normal. And as we know, there's our little friend Mercury to take into account.
Oh yes.
Although it's a fascinating study, it could be it could be improved on.
Yes, yes. Well, I already see a lot of people looking on YouTube to join us. So
Wow.
I will be your host. So today, Christine would be, the main speaker, and I will just like screen on the audience. If you have any feedback or any question you want to ask, you can leave on the comment area or chat area, so I can deliver the question to Christine. But first, Christine. I have a question about the your newsletter, because we subscribe your newsletter, but then the recent full moon later has a little bit changed, a little bit different.
Well, it was so amazing that we were going to be doing this talk today.
Mm-hmm,
It's called the Full Moon Newsletter, and it's been
mm-hmm.
going on for about 15 years now.
Yes.
And usually I start writing it 2 days before, and then it goes out on time. Right? But this one, because of a whole variety of reasons, I'd actually started to write it nearly a week early, which was in itself very, very unusual.
Mm-hmm,
And I didn't understand that. I'd started to sketch out what I wanted to put in it.
mm-hmm,
Now, I was really concerned about two big things.
mm-hmm,
First of all, that this particular full moon, the alignment with the New York Stock Exchange
mm-hmm,
suggested to me that this was going to be the start of a downturn. I was
mm-hmm,
also aware that the next full moon, which lines up with Chiron,
mm-hmm,
might also be, I've called Chiron the corrector.
mm-hmm,
So I'm thinking this is not going to be a very easy few weeks, right?
mm-hmm,
So, and people get very anxious. Now, when I first did the newsletter, it only went out to about 8 people, right?
mm-hmm.
And what happened was that let me explain. when the whole thing first began, it was because on a Monday morning, traders who were also my friends were ringing up to ask what was going to happen that week. But I was having the same conversation a few times. I didn't get paid for that, and it was taking away time from me. So I decided to do a letter on a Sunday night. That's how it began.
Okay.
They then forwarded it to other people, right? So although I was mentioning my cat and life here, you know, they just they threw, you know, it went to other people, and it grew. So to the point where I thought, well, I can't do this every week. So I started to do it with the new and the full moon. That got too much. So it became just the full moon letter. But obviously, it goes out to several thousand people now. And I don't know all these people. And the one thing I don't want to do is to give panic to anyone. Now we're just about to go through a really quite a black tunnel financially, I think. And so I thought the best thing to do with this newsletter was actually to mention the fact that Pluto was going to go into Aquarius. I thought if I try and do the long view, I'll do that bit first. I'll do that bit. I'll do the bit about the digital dollar, and I did a little bit about equities, and then blow me down on the Thursday night, the Queen died. Right?
Yeah.
And suddenly I thought, well, what do I do? You know, that's the top story, and whatever you do, that's the top story.
Yes, indeed.
So, but I'm very, very tight on words, and there's only 1,000 words available. So I had to get rid of some words in order to put something in about the Queen at the top. So this newsletter was very different. But then, if you look at the chart for this full moon, it was very different. You know,
indeed, yes,
it was really different because we got Neptune in the frame. You know, we had Mercury stationing, right?
Yes,
and stationing at 8 degrees of Aries, of Libra rather, and it was stationing exactly opposite my Jupiter.
Oh, wow, okay.
Ouch. Ouch, triple ouch, because within the space of 4 days, I'd been offered some work in China, some work in India, some work in Turkey, and you know, these are countries that I don't normally work with, right? And it was all sort of silly international. So yes, so that letter was really, I'm going to be interested to see how that letter works out over time. Because finally, with that letter too, I've now got for sale an introduction to financial astrology, and also we were launching the Astro crypto subscription letter.
Yes.
So this letter was entirely different to anything I'd done before, because I don't normally do any kind of marketing at all. But it was totally in keeping with the chart for the day. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it is pretty interesting. Sorry to interrupt you, because I think my personal experience for this week is also a lot of things going on, and the things keep coming. And I have that feeling about, oh my God, it's slightly overwhelming. It's not just because about the week that you finished and the Queen passed away very quickly 2 days up, and it's just like, oh my God, my personal life, the work is like there's things I have to do. So I think I like the one sentence. I think most astrologer use this sentence, including you, is the changing of guard
of the guard.
Changing of guard. I think yes, it's important because Queen symbolize a time. She's been on the throne for seven or more than 70 years. But yes, and then suddenly she passed away, and everything is changing for a lot of people.
Yeah, you know, everybody is saying it. It's the end of an era, but this week has really been dominated by this Mercury opposing Jupiter. Right?
Yes,
and we've seen that in so many forms. You know, because I've just been watching television now, and it's been showing these people who flew from the States to spend 14 hours in the queue, right? And now they're flying back, and they just came to give respect. And this Mercury Jupiter thing, it doesn't, in every layer, all our newspapers are thicker than they normally are. You know,
Yes.
everything is exaggerated. Nobody can find the right words for anything. It's really, Mercury Jupiter all week has been really stressful because you don't know quite what to say to people. And this goes back to my newsletter, is that how do you talk without making panic, without over exaggerating, without, just give the simple facts, but do it as securely as you can. So it's been really taxing this week. And I wanted to bring in this dwarf planet, Varuna, if I may.
Yeah, please.
I've really fallen for these dwarf planets. You know, I know you have to have, you know, that every bit of astrology is like having a little disease. You have to have the infection and you have to be cured of it, and then you move on to the next thing. And you have like draconic astrology. You have to have draconic-itis for a while. You know, you have to have galactic astrology-itis. You have to do all these things. And I'm right now, I've gone from having asteroiditis. I've now got planetitis. Right? I'm hoping it's curable, but Varuna, I'm really taken with, because Varuna is presently about 5 degrees of Leo. And so it's in sextile to Mercury, right? And obviously, therefore, in trine to the Jupiter. And there we had the new king giving this amazing speech the other night. You know, his mum's just died, and yet he delivers this thing where he quotes the other great Varuna, which is Shakespeare, right? And you know, it's just this whole thing about words and the power of words. And for the new king, Varuna is exact on his ascendant presently.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he's, you know, I'm not saying he wouldn't speak like that normally. I have no idea. But the idea that he could sculpt such beautiful and poetic language it just sort of made me think a lot about how Varuna is affecting all of us.
As I understand, I think Varuna is a Hindu god, right? A Hindu god of sky. Yeah, because when we speak in English, I probably couldn't get it, but when I double check his name, and I said, oh, I understand, because I grew up in the Buddhist family, and in a lot of classic, I have read the name. I was like, oh, it sounds familiar now, and it's a god of the sky and the rain, and you know, it's the things you're talking about is about the rule. It's about the rule and the underworld, which is pretty interesting about things you're talking about. And one thing is also about this Varuna, because I think when I read the description of Varuna, I just remember the moment you and me, we realized the event chart of this podcast.
Well, yes, look, this started as a little idea, didn't it? We were chatting about something else, and then it gained its own momentum. And I think if either of us had been working for the other one, we would never have chosen today's chart, right? Because it's kind of crazy. But on the other hand, it's also important because, as I said, because of this configuration in the sky, I think this is it gives us chance to talk about something different. Oh, this is it.
This is it. Yes, I used the 5 p.m. chart, and really it was so interesting because we only talk about a day. I said, okay, let's do it today because it's waning moon, last quarter moon. And then I didn't realize I have 2-hour event today. So I was like, okay, I finished the hour event. I put this event at 5 p.m. But just thinking, you know, people maybe at least like a little bit chill and listen, you know, our chatting. And then when I finished my event, and then I said, oh, I have time, let me check the chart. I think it will be interesting to see what they say in the chart. Then I realized when I turned out the chart, I said, oh, dear, we chose an interesting time.
Well, I mean, I find it fascinating because, you know, I was talking to colleagues last Sunday who were trying to find the perfect date. There is no such thing, you know. They were trying to sort out the date for something that has to happen this year. When's the best date? And the guy was saying that he just didn't want to do it whilst Jupiter was retrograde. Nothing ever works, whilst Jupiter is retrograde. And you read all these rules, you read that whatever you do with a company, don't start it when Venus is retrograde or something. Well, but then when you start looking at the charts of, say, companies in the London Stock Exchange index, you find that they've got retrograde Venus, or there are loads of them with retrograde Mercury. Retrograde isn't necessarily bad. In the case of Mercury, I do think it's thoughtful. And I do think Mercury retrograde, it's amazing. I am having a Mercury return today. There's a surprise, Mine is 542 of Libra.
Okay, wow.
So there we are. Yeah, so it's pretty close, isn't it? Pretty
yes.
Close. So no, we wouldn't necessarily have chosen this chart, but it does seem to be appropriate. I always do like a Sun opposition Neptune. Sounds crazy, but I think and particularly for the internet, right? Because it's an idea whose time has come. We're ready to run with this. It implies longevity. Whenever the Sun and Neptune are together, there's, its time is boundless. There's a touch of infinity here. So hopefully this is just the first of a whole series of things.
Yeah. How about that Pluto? I think most people will just like, whoa, when they see the Pluto ascendant, they will be like, wow, why you choose this chart? But I think it's a fit into the time, right? The time we have.
But would you mind, because it's your screen that's showing, would you mind clicking on reports for a minute?
Yeah, reports. Yes, definitely. Yes.
And then could you go on to where it says tabulations, please?
Tabulation, yes.
Yeah. And now would you click on declinations, about halfway down?
Okay, declination, exactly. Here we are.
Right.
Yeah.
And now can we see that? Yeah. So if we look on here, we see that the ascendant is it's got a minus 2102.
Yes.
And Pluto is at minus 2303.
Yes.
Right. So in fact, Pluto isn't exact on the ascendant. There's a little bit of variation here.
Yes.
But what we want to talk about, of course, is that we're seeing Pluto as being almost anoretic. It's right at the end of the sign. It's not quite, but very nearly there.
Yeah.
And we are most definitely coming to the end of the Pluto in Capricorn phase.
Yes.
And I know lots of us are saying, well, thank goodness for that. I'm just a little bit apprehensive about what it means when it goes into Aquarius. We might want the other days back, mightn't we? Yeah, there's some if people haven't done this before, there's some very interesting little pictures on this. If you look at that Saturn with the South Node.
Yeah.
By declination.
Yes.
And that really is, part of this signature of the Queen going now, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. There is a little bit like a sadness with the Saturn flavor, and also like a time end of an era or something, because of this Saturn flavor with the node. The node usually, I think, for most people talking about the node, they talking about the spirituality. I find it fascinating when I study the financial astrology. It connects with people so tightly.
Yeah, well, the thing is that financial astrology is just people, right? It's the people who make up the market. Although having said that, of course, I'm now working in this new world, right? Where you have what they call bots, the artificial intelligence.
Oh yes.
And this is now into the realms of mathematics, right?
Yeah.
So you've taken the emotional, you've taken the normal trading thing out of it. And we're having to learn a new language. Right?
Yes.
I'm having to learn something really very different. But we should talk really about Pluto going into Aquarius.
Yes, definitely, because it's huge things.
Well, it really is. And I don't know how many of us are actually ready for it.
Yeah.
Because we've known it's coming, right? You can't. You know the order of the signs, right?
Yes.
But just in the way that Pluto went into Capricorn and the markets collapsed, and
Mm-hmm.
all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Could see that coming, but didn't really feel it, right? It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
until it happened that you got the sense of it. So
Mm-hmm.
Pluto going into Aquarius, we're all talking about it now, but the
Mm-hmm.
actual experience of it is going to be very different.
Yes.
Well, of course, whereas when it was going through Capricorn, it was tearing down fundamentals,
Exactly. Yes.
physical fundamentals. This time, this is going to mess with our heads.
Mm-hmm.
Going into Aquarius,
Mm.
because suddenly, I know we've been doing it for the last 10 years or so, we've learned that you can't, with a call center, you can never talk to a human being, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're talking to a machine, and
Yeah.
they now have it so that they make the machine, you could almost sound as though it's a real person, almost.
Yes.
They
Yes.
have the clicking of the keyboard in the background, right?
Yeah.
The thing about Pluto going into Aquarius is that we're all going to have to learn, how do we negotiate with something that has no feeling?
Yeah. I think it's pretty interesting news. With this month, early this month, a AI work, a picture drawn by AI won the art prize, and
Yes,
artists are furious, and they say, how could this possible?
how
I
can
think.
this? Yeah, but we have to learn this. And the other news story the other day, when they were trying to teach a robot comedy, right?
Yeah,
Teaching the robot when to laugh.
when to laugh.
When to laugh. So we're talking about, and this is it's just the beginning. By the time Pluto leaves Aquarius,
Mm-hmm.
that artificial intelligence will have some of human characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, we have to learn some of that, right?
True.
It's a two-way thing, right? So we are going to have to learn. I know I keep binding on about this, but
Mm-hmm.
people think cryptocurrencies are bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then they're not going in, they're here, right?
They're here. Yeah.
Go back in the box, right?
Yeah.
This is, and it's not all bad. It isn't by far anything that is decentralized and that takes away, from the people who've had so much power and puts power back with the people, right? Is something that we should all think as being valuable. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, the system is faulty now, but it won't be faulty forever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it regulates.
Yeah, I remember in a seminar, I think was 2 years ago in a conference, you were talking about you mentioned a little bit about Pluto in Aquarius, and we realized that Aquarius are kind of a very important in our today's society, especially with technology and with all these IT, computer, and even the digital currency and the crypto. The Pluto, when Pluto moved in, there's a sense of it going to not only just reshuffle. I think it's going to to take it down and start it again.
Well, can I just talk about it in terms of just money?
Yeah.
So here in the UK, our banknotes have had the Queen's head on it, right?
Oh yes.
So now we know that we will have to have new notes that will have the King's head on it.
Yes.
Now, somebody somewhere is going to have to decide how many of these things to print, because we know they've been talking for ages and ages about a digital currency, a government digital currency. So this is the death of the Queen and deciding how to handle the money is already pushing us into this Pluto in Aquarius age, right?
Yeah.
So I feel that the Pluto in Aquarius has actually almost begun, right?
Yeah.
Because we're really we haven't even got a toenail into what this really is going to mean for us. But people, you can pay for your goods now with your watch or with your phone or whatever. The acceleration on all that is going to be absolutely huge.
Yeah. Talking about money, I feel quite fascinating, to be honest, about your full moon report mentioned about early this week stock market turning point. And I discussed with my colleague Brian. We just when we translated this latest into Chinese, and we just for last couple of days doesn't look like this, but you say it's on the 12th, and suddenly,
oh right, Well,
Let's say it's falling what new stock Dow Jones fallen 4%, nearly 4%.
yeah, but right. But we've been talking about the fact that the machines are taking over. They're not there yet. We're still it's still humans, right? Still.
Yes.
And what I did was not clever. It wasn't. I wasn't showing off or anything. This is just absolutely very basic stuff. It so happened that that full moon was across 17 Virgo Pisces, right, with Neptune. Now, the New York Stock Exchange chart, which goes back to the 17th of May, 1792, and you can argue about what time of day, but get that. You don't need to know that bit. What you do need to know is that Mars was about 18 degrees of Virgo. So if you have Neptune opposing Mars at a full moon, right?
Yep.
That squanders the energy, that says something is, what's the balloon is going to pop, right? And at a full moon, and Mercury is stationing at 8 degrees of the cardinals. Now, this is the other part of the story, because not all degrees of the zodiac are equal.
Okay.
And there are some degrees that show up at times of crisis, right? We know there's a degree for flight. We know there's a degree for coal.
Yes.
Right? But if you went through the stock market or the stock market story for since the last Neptune-Pluto conjunction, you would find that 19 degrees of the cardinals is a regular bad boy, right? But his understudy is 8 degrees of the cardinals.
Yes.
So there's Mercury stationing there, right? And just, it was absolutely clear that was then going to be a turning point. Now, they'll recover a bit, because human beings don't like that, right?
Yeah.
So there will be a little bit of recovery, but then Chiron's got to get in on the act at the beginning of next month.
Yes.
Another whoopsie. But when you think about all the things that are going on in the world, right? I'm not just talking about the Queen here, but the war, the threat with Taiwan and China, the stress everywhere.
Yes.
It's very hard for markets to recover now until we get into the eclipse period, which is a few weeks hence.
Yes. Well, the next eclipse is also quite interesting, because talk about the eclipse when Queen passed away, and we just realized, because this year's lunar eclipse with the falling on her MC, IC, and her Saturn, which is her chart ruler, first house ascendant ruler.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the timing was staggering, because she left us with Saturn transiting her Mars, and the moon was with Saturn. I know they haven't given the exact time that she went, but it would be within a couple of degrees that the moon and Saturn were together. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. So following the next eclipse, what should we focus on?
Well, for me, the thing that is fascinating to me is that if you look at this eclipse, it's at early degrees of Scorpio, and Venus is conjunct the Sun Moon. Now, if you go back, right, the last time that happened was in 2014. There was an eclipse. This one's isn't it about 2 degrees of Scorpio?
Yes. Yes, 2 degrees Scorpio, and the Venus is 2 degrees 39.
Yeah. So the last time there was this little signature, if you like, was were the eclipses in 2014, which were the Sun, Moon, and Venus all at 0 degrees of Scorpio.
Wow.
Now, what was interesting then is that Scorpio is all about preciousness, isn't it?
Yes.
And precious metals at that point went down in price. But within about 9 months, so picking up on the first quarter moon that relates to the solar eclipse, the price had moved massively up. Right? And I suspect that this is what we're going to see. The cosmos never does, an exact replay.
Yeah. Yes.
But I fully expect that we will see those commodity prices coming temporarily down before they shoot up into next year. So I'm looking, and I will be looking for buying opportunities during that eclipse window, as I call it, between the sun and the moon. Because remember, we will also, Saturn will have turned direct.
Yes.
Right? Jupiter turns direct inside the eclipse window, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Jupiter is going to go back over the world axis.
Mm-hmm.
So we've suddenly there's going to be excitement, and things that have been stuck and unable to move forward will gather on a pace. Now, they won't be the sectors that we're used to doing well. There'll be new sectors because that's appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Talking about this, because when you mentioned about the things that are stuck, which currently at this moment we have that feeling, because the talking about like inflation and energy bill is going sky high, and we are waiting our government, just like not only our government, I think EU the same. EU is teams up to trying to find some solution to cut it down this energy bill, and people are worried about in the winter. I think I read that news about people are really upset today and shouting to the King Charles III to say we are going to we cannot afford our bill and we have to pay for your parade, which is, well, I mean there is a worry like that too, about this winter, about the energy bill.
No, I mean, I completely get all this, but we are in this very muddly time. I don't have answers as to how people can pay those bills. I haven't got that, right? What I know is that this is the present situation is really fluid, right? You can hold on to the astrology with this, because Jupiter is going to go back into Pisces. The oil is going to flow, right? And we're going to get a window to recalibrate, right? It wouldn't be the worst. Well, I mean, I don't want to get into the politics of all of this, but we're being forced to consider how we use energy. Full stop. Right? And this is, that might not be the worst thing that's ever happened. Right? You just have to be thankful that you're not a politician just now, because who would want to try and solve this mess?
And they still try to fight so hard to get into it. Well, it is so interesting chatting about the older chart with you, and then beside about reading your formal report, and then week after we have a little bit kind of a review what's happening, and also what do you write, and some question about why in this way, and it is so interesting.
Well, let's hope the next one is so good, because I've discovered that I'm actually now making notes already for the next one. This is so I feel that universe letter is already moving, and I don't know where it's going, but of course I can't know where it's going. Mercury is where it is, right? I'm not quite settled yet, so we wait and see. But good to chat.
Exactly, because also I want to so before we finish today's podcast, I have some questions, because when what is your next event? I remember sounds like Monday you supposed to we supposed to see each other.
I was, and this is absolutely amazing, because I was going to do a talk for the Astrological Lodge of London, which was going to be a hybrid event apparently. And I was going to be talking about your midheaven and your progress midheaven. And I was very excited about doing it. And I had chosen the Queen. Can you believe it? I'd chosen the Queen as my example because of her length, her longevity. I could do her direct midheaven 90 degrees, and I could also do the converse 90 degrees. So I had this whole big presentation for her. And then suddenly, she died. The funeral is actually that day. So they've asked now, because they don't want to do the event that day, obviously. So it's now been moved to the 13th of February.
Okay. My birthday.
Oh, well, there we go. Right. So maybe I'll use your chart instead.
And I think I'm going to give a talk on 13th of March.
Oh, well. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I got the February one,
Yeah.
which is the only one they offered me. But anyway, so it's postponed until then. So my next event actually is for you,
Oh yes.
your people, is the gold and silver one.
We are so looking forward to that webinar, because I think it is very interesting to look at it like a precious metal, and how the market go, and maybe with astrology. That would be so interesting. I'm so looking forward. For people who are interested in this topic, I will leave a link in the comment area, so you can contact AOA. So we will just like help you. But this one I have to let you know. This one will be in half English, half Chinese Mandarin. I will translate it. So if you are only English speaker, maybe it's a little bit different experience, I have to say. And also, I think I want to mention that because we are planning whole series of the 2023 Pluto in Aquarius and Saturn in Pisces webinar. And so there is Christeen Skinner and Liam McCarthy and Dr. Lee Lehman and Mandela Clay, Alejo Lopez, and Darby Costello, and Lynn Bell, and Fernanda Paiva. So we were teams up. So each webinar we have two astrologers. We were talking. They will choose a topic talking about Pluto Aquarius and Saturn in Pisces from different perspectives, and then they will have conversation for kind of half hour. I think it's kind of I'm quite excited about this design because it's not just it's not just a webinar or one astrologer. We have a different generation, and we look at the things in different way, and we have the conversation. That would be quite interesting. And of course, as astrologer, I'm not going to start the enrollment now. I'm waiting for Mercury retrograde to finish. So the detail will come out in early October. So yeah, so please, stay in tune. That is quite interesting. It is so nice to chat to you, Christy. I mean, every time we chat, and we learn a lot of things.
We could talk all night.
To be honest, but I think we all need a little bit of chill. It's Saturday afternoon. We probably need a gin and tonic soon. So thank you everyone for watching this Lunar Rhythm. This is our very first episode of a Lunar Rhythm podcast of me and Christeen Skinner. If you like our podcast, please like and subscribe our channel. If you have any suggestion and feedback, please leave on the comment area. So me and it's our very first podcast. So me and Christine, we will try to listen other people's suggestion and try to see what we can bring to everyone. And if you like Christine, please want to subscribe her newsletter. That website is the Financial Universe. I will post in the comment area, and also the new one, the Astro Crypto newsletter would be online too. So I will also put the link there. Okay, thanks everyone, and see you soon. Stay in tune.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Let me click.